Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. As we continue to go through Hilchot Shabbat, we're up to this week, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to learn Melechet Koreya, the laws of tearing. Melechet Koreya is one of the 39 Melachot of Shabbat, and this would come up in the Mishkan with the idea of, as you know, we keep talking about the creation of the curtains. From time to time, when they made a curtain in the Mishkan, the curtain could have a hole in it, maybe a moth ate through it, or somehow a hole developed, and you needed to tear whatever area was damaged, basically to remove it, and that way it could be corrected, it could be re-sewn. So because of that, the Gemara says that Koreya, that the act of tearing, is a melacha on Shabbat. Now, really, it's only a melacha for the constructive purpose of re-sewing. So therefore, the name of the melacha is HaKoreya al menat litfor, which means you tear with the intention of sewing. Last time that we were together, we learned about tofer, sewing. Koreya is the opposite of sewing. Whenever you have two things that were sewn together, to then take them apart would be the act of Koreya. But the truth is that it applies to even things that are not necessarily sewn together. It could be something that you're just ripping for different reasons, and that would be a problem of ripping. So let's talk about different potential issues of ripping. So I'm sure you all know, whenever a person, let's say he wants to rip tinfoil on Shabbat, right? So tinfoil is taking something and creating, you can't, wrap an entire roll of tinfoil onto a 9x13 pan. You need to have it cut to a certain size. So when you tear, you're actually creating a nice sheet of tinfoil. And that would therefore be prohibited on Shabbat. Very simple, basic example, and it's a constructive way to do Melechet Koreya. I'm tearing in a constructive manner to create this proper size sheet of tinfoil. And that's forbidden to do on Shabbat. Clear? Yes?
So you said that it's a melacha, but it's for the constructive purpose of re-sewing.
So yes, why? In other words, that's what makes it constructive. In other words, if I remember the rule, mekalkel, which means whenever you do any kind of destructive act on Shabbat, you're exempt, always. If it's destructive, then it doesn't make it allowed, but it makes you exempt. It's not prohibited on a Torah level. So if it's a melacha, it means it has to be prohibited on a Torah level. It's something that's a melacha d'oraita. So what is the melacha d'oraita? When it's constructive, when you're tearing for the constructive purpose of then re-sewing. Over here, it's a case where you're tearing not to re-sew, but you're tearing in order to create something. Another example would be you're tearing in order to the saran wrap, right? Saran wrap, great example. So here you take whatever half of a watermelon that you used one half and you don't want the other half to go bad, so you go and you wrap it up in the saran wrap, and then you take that little thing and you move it from one side to the other. You just ripped off the saran wrap and you did it to the size that you needed. So that's the act of tearing in a constructive way. So don't use saran wrap like that on Shabbat. What do? You prepare sheets of tinfoil before Shabbat. I don't know if saran wrap, it's that practical. I don't think so. Saran wrap, you have to kind of do it with a thing.
But maybe there's pre-cut tinfoil.
Okay. There
are pre-cuts.
Great. You could get pre-cut tinfoil, or you could pre-cut the tinfoil yourself, whatever works for you, right? Anything that works for you.
Jewish brands have it, even the non-Jewish brands.
Fantastic. Whatever works. The point is that you're not actually slicing the tinfoil on Shabbat. Clear? Okay. So those are basic examples, yes.
Can you ask a goy to do it for you if you have a goy working for you on Shabbat?
Not really.
Really?
Yeah. Not really. Now, what's going to happen often enough is, I mean, you could tell the goy to put this away, and the goy might decide, you know, the goy might just decide to do it so that maybe the goy will be able to reuse it later, to serve it later if he wants to. You know, in a situation like that, then you didn't tell the goy to do it. The goy did it on his own. And the truth is that you can't benefit from melacha that a goy does for you. But if he just went ahead and did it, if he's doing it for you, technically you would actually have to tell him to stop, not do it. Right? That's what I was going to say. A lot of times what happens is you didn't see it and you're not aware of it. You just open the fridge later and you just see, oh, there it is. Do you now have to take it off? I don't think so.
What if you're at a relative's house and they do this and you can't ask them not to because it's not respectful? Are you allowed to benefit from it?
Well, I guess it would depend how you're benefiting from it. What are they? In other words, now your watermelon is now covered
or let's say they rip paper or they rip down like tin foil or they they do all this because they don't know all the other they just know the basic things.
Right.
So are you allowed to
benefit from it? So the simple answer would be you should not benefit from it. If let's say the question is, should I use the tin foil that my not aware cousin just sliced, or my parents or whoever it may be, they just ripped the tin foil. Can I use that? The answer is try, and you should not use that really because they just made that for you. It's a violation of Shabbat, and you shouldn't use that technically, right? But should you go ahead and make an issue of it? If they want to use it themselves, do you have to stop them if you know that they're going to get upset and all that? Probably it'd be a better idea to just not say anything, But if you yourself are facing a choice, should I use that or maybe I should figure out some other solution?
Or if they cover up food for everybody and they rip something for that.
Yeah, it's the same question, right?
Are you allowed to eat the food?
Yeah, you're allowed because the food is fine. The food didn't get affected. It's just covering it. It's just a question of it being fresher or less fresh. Okay, but I'm just trying. I want to focus on the example. So again, the tin foil is a problem. Obviously, toilet paper, right? If you are not happy with tissues and you feel the need for toilet paper, then you'll have to pre-cut your toilet paper before Shabbat. Some people refuse to do tissues. Everybody with their own personal preference.
But you could get pre-cut.
You can get pre-cut toilet paper?
Yeah.
Great. I didn't know that. I didn't know that existed.
Kosher innovations.
Really?
Yeah.
So I'm one of those guys that if we need, I just...
And they have very pretty little boxes.
Yeah.
You could order it online.
Okay. Great. So if you want to save the hassle, great. But if you...
Yes.
What? Right. So I was saying, most people, as far as I know, a lot of people use tissues. I actually once went to a shul, not too far from here, and the shul didn't have any tissues or any toilet paper. I mean, they had toilet paper, I meant to say, but no pre-cut toilet paper. So I was kind of like dumbfounded. Like, how do you expect people to go to the bathroom if you're not giving them any tissues or something? So somebody had said to me, well, they don't have perforations on. They get a special toilet paper that doesn't have the perforated lines, so it doesn't become a sheet when you cut it. I said, okay. So you've eliminated one melacha, which is mechatech. You're not getting a defined size, but you still aren't supposed to rip the paper. Koreya. Not supposed to make sheets of anything. Tin foil, saran wrap, toilet paper, Bounty, whatever, paper towels. You're not supposed to do that. So they stayed quiet and they're like, oh. So I try to verify before Shabbat starts, over here at least, that the bathrooms have tissues. I'm cutting toilet paper, but they have tissues. Yes. Okay. Very good question. What do you do if you're stuck in a situation where you don't have anything but toilet paper? So then the answer is that what you do is, see, there are two ways of going about this. Depends where you are. Some people would just say, go to the sink and, and as you are all aware, it's very hard and it's very messy and probably would be very offensive to the people that came after you. So it's not really an option. So what they say to do is you rip it beshinui. How do you shinui again? Remember shinui? You deviate from the normal way of ripping it. So number one, you don't rip it on the lines. As it's probably worthwhile to discuss the idea of a perforation being a problem of mechatech. Mechatech is another melacha. Mechatech is a melacha that is involving creating things to a certain size, getting things to a specific size, right? So for example, the Bounty or whatever, Costco paper towels, a lot of them recently came out with this, a few years ago already. It used to be that whenever you would cut the paper towel, it would be like this very big sheet of paper towel. And they now gave you this feature that you can cut that in half. So you get to choose the size you want. You could have either the classic old, very large sheet of paper towel, or if you want the smaller sheet, you could do that. So that's a great example, an illustration of the melacha of mechatech. Mechatech means you're cutting it to a certain size. You want it to be this size. You don't want it to be this size. So therefore, that's a melacha. Whenever you cut something on a perforation, you're usually doing that. You're trying to get a particular cut. So therefore, the sheet of toilet paper that you rip off and it comes off as a perfect sheet, that is not only the melacha of Koreya, but it's also the melacha of mechatech. So the first thing that you want to do is, if you're in that situation, you want to rip it not on the line. So you have to kind of push it down on a spot where it's not on the perforated line. That's number one. Number two, you do it beshinui, which means you do it in a way that's very odd. You would never cut the toilet paper, let's say, with your elbow, with your teeth, with your foot. These are very odd and strange ways of doing it. And if you do it that way, then automatically it's downgraded to a derabanan, which means it's not prohibited on a Torah level anymore. As we learned in the past, whenever you deviate from the normal way of doing the melacha, automatically it becomes only prohibited mi derabanan, rabbinically. And why is it so important to know that it's only prohibited rabbinically? Because the rule, the golden rule, all throughout Shas, is gadol kavod habiriot, that so great is the honor of human dignity in the eyes of Hashem, shedoche lo ta'aseh shebat Torah. It pushes off the negative commandments of the Torah, which one of the negative commandments of the Torah is lo tasuru min hadavar asher yagidu lecha yamin u'shmol. Do not turn away from what the rabbi is saying. So the Torah says you cannot do even a melacha in a weird way. The rabbis got up and said that. Fine. But the mitzvah of kavod habriot, which means human dignity, that can push off what the rabbis said not to do. Okay, it's an interesting thing. So therefore, the Torah says that the halacha will allow a person to do something in a shinui, which means a deviation from the normal way. So that's why you'd be allowed to go ahead and to cut it in a weird way. Yeah.
I have two questions. My first is, do you need to do it in shinui if you're opening up a package, let's say napkins, opening up a new Bounty? And are you allowed to open Amazon packages? Let's say something arrived and you have those napkins in there. It's actually happened to me.
Yeah.
That you ordered for Chag and now they came. Can you open that, and does it have to be in a certain way?
Okay, so I have good news for you. The answer is yes. You can open those Amazon packages. I went through this with a very qualified Talmid Chacham who has written a beautiful piece on this exact question. And he explains very, very lovely that you could use your Amazon packages that come. Let's say it's boots, new shoes for Chag, whatever it may be. Even though it came from a distant place, it is considered to have been yours ahead of time, and therefore follows you, and you're allowed to go ahead and use it. Interesting thing. But yes, there are some.
On Shabbat?
So there are some criteria about opening packages and opening things that we need to talk about before we just go into that. But in general, is there a way to do it? Yes, there is a way to do it. But we'll get to that, Zashin. Okay. So let's talk about a couple of just basic examples of things that are okay. Can you rip a candy wrapper off of a candy? Yes. Can you do a Band-Aid wrapper, take the item out of the Band-Aid out of the plastic? Yes. If you have some kind of plastic or aluminum around a bottle, can you take that aluminum? Sometimes the grape juice has that the sparkling grape juice has that golden aluminum thing on the top. You can rip that off too. The plastic sometimes has perforations. You got to watch out for that. Plastic sometimes has perforations, so you got to watch out. Okay. Aluminum on the coffee. Sometimes you open up a brand new coffee, you see an aluminum thing on top, you could rip that off, no problem. A sugar, a salt packet. To get food, generally speaking, for food purposes, there's much more leniency. So therefore, any kind of thin and flimsy bag, like a potato chips bag, right? Or any kind of bag like that, you can rip that open, no problem. Now, the main concern over here and in all of these things is, remember, if you're doing Koreya for a constructive purpose, right? So that's where it's a problem. But in all of these cases, you're not doing Koreya. In your action of tearing, you are not benefiting that which is being torn in any way. So that potato chip bag is not now a nice bag that you're going to be using and reusing. You haven't created a vessel of any sort. Once you're done with the potato chips, that thing's going straight in the garbage. So you haven't really done anything. Whereas the sheet of aluminum foil, you have now turned into a fitted, nice cover for your 9x13 pan. So over there, you have created a cover, right, through your act of tearing, right? Yeah.
So let's say it's like a big bag of chips, and you're not going to finish the whole thing. And you will not.
Yeah, because when you do, it's going in the garbage. You understand? You didn't make a vessel. You're just kind of opening up. So what the Shulchan Aruch says is that there are certain things called chotalot. Chotalot were baskets made of lulav leaves. They would take the leaves of the lulav, they would make baskets out of it, and they would use it to store all kinds of fruits and vegetables and things like that. And the Shulchan Aruch says that you're allowed to go ahead and to just tear them open, because in the same way that you can crack a nut, like a walnut, and get the shell off of it, provided that it's not with the shell that's in the field, but that shell has already been removed, like we spoke about in the past. So it's just the regular shell on the walnut. So just like you can crack open the shell, so too you can crack open this basket, because that basket is kind of like a shell to the food. That's what he says. So therefore, whenever you have something that's preventing you from getting to the food, you're allowed to go ahead and to rip it open in order to go ahead and to take out the food. There's no question that if you do it in a destructive way, there's for sure a reason to permit it. But even if you don't, even if you just open it up normally, the main point here is that this bag is not going to be a functioning vessel for you after you're done. It's going straight in the garbage. And therefore, we view it as garbage. You haven't created anything. You're just trying to get to the food inside, and that's why it's okay. Clear? Okay. Now, okay, so that's very important. Okay. There are a lot of cases that we need to talk about. For example, have you ever gotten, let's say, one of those packages of pudding or yogurt or something, and they're like attached to each other? You know what I'm saying? Like this cup is attached to this one, and which is attached to the next one. Can you tear one off from the other? You're definitely ripping. You're ripping this one off of the other one. Is that like making another vessel? And again, the answer is the same answer. There's no problem. Why? Because when you're done with that pudding cup or whatever it may be, that thing's going straight in the garbage, right? So you haven't created anything. Your act of tearing has not created for you now something that you're going to be able to use. It's just trying to get to the food, and it shouldn't be stuck to the other. You don't want to eat this thing while it's stuck to the other thing. So therefore, you can tear it off. Yeah.
Can you give an example of plastic you're talking about?
Sorry, what?
The plastic you were talking about, it has a frame on it.
You know those kedem, those glass kedem grape juice bottles, those big ones. On the top, sometimes they have a plastic with a perforation. You pull that out, and then you throw it out. I guess you could argue that that's also going into the garbage, and it's not really doing anything. But I would imagine it's better to not go down the line.
No,
That one.
there's some, I think there's some that's on the cap, and you can't open the cap without taking the peel off. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, like that stuff. Can you peel that off?
Which I'm not following. Which
Like sometimes you have a bottle around the cap, there's like a seal of
Medicine.
huh?
Oh, I think
Medicine.
Oh yeah, like one of those things. I think it's fine. I don't know. You're not really. So yeah, try and not do it on the perforated lines. That would probably be better. I mean, I guess you could argue that it's really not a problem anyway, because you're not looking to have a particular size over. You're just trying to open it up. I could hear somebody argue that, but it's always good to just avoid it. Just take a knife and cut the other side. Yeah.
Why is it? Why is it needed to open and
So it's a long discussion. It goes through a lot of different issues.
you have to open the ceiling? Or?
No, the point is, you remember one rule of thumb? When you open in a destructive way, if you need the contents inside, it's going to be fine. To open in a way that you're destroying the package, it's going to be okay. Okay, if you need that which is inside, for example, a package of napkins, right? So if you just kind of like that, you're fine. You understand? Because you're showing that that this plastic wrapper that is surrounding your napkins, you're not making it into a vessel. You're not making it into something you want to reuse. In other words, your act of tearing is not creating anything for you. It's just to destroy this thing which is blocking you from your napkins. See what I'm saying? You hear the difference between that and, let's say, making a nice sheet of aluminum or saran wrap fit to size around your watermelon, that you have created a cover for your watermelon. Here, I'm not trying to create anything. I'm just trying to get rid of that which is preventing me from getting my napkins. See what I'm saying? Okay, great. So you could rip apart the attached leavens and yogurts because they are like, just like we said before, they're like those baskets, the chotalot, which are the baskets of the lulav. That's no problem to rip. Okay. There is a big discussion amongst the poskim about tissue boxes, right? So let's say a package of tissues inside of a plastic. In Israel, they do that. They have tissues inside of a plastic. So to just rip that open, no problem. Like we said before, you're ripping it, just trying to get to the tissues, no issue. What if you want to open a tissue box? So the thing with tissue boxes is that now the tissue box actually serves a function. Meaning, when you open up that middle piece, right? So now you've got the little plastic part there, and it's designed in a way to easily hold your tissues down so that when you pull out one tissue, the next tissue comes up and it's nice and user-friendly. So over there, you are actually making a little bit of a functioning vessel. It's true when you're done with the tissues, it's going to go in the garbage. However, it's not going to happen for quite some time. And as that time goes on, you're pulling out tissues and it's feeding you more tissues every time because of the vessel that you made by opening the middle. So therefore, the poskim say it's better. You really should not open the middle of the tissue box. So I do this a lot when we get.
Need it though? Like what if you?
Oh, so what if you need it? What if you're stuck?
You use it
It'd be better to open the side of the tissue box.
Let's say
You know
it's
the
like
side
these-
sometimes has like a little flap. Open the side.
Let's say it's like those boxes for the toilet paper. You know, like, cause I like from. This company has like these little, like boxes. For you to use for the, go to the bathroom. So let's say you finish one box, can you open up another box?
You finish one box of tissues.
Yeah, for the bathroom. Can you use another one? Can you open up?
You
the
mean
box?
you have a box of like pre-cut tissues you're talking about? Or you
Yeah,
mean to say like
for you to use
Shabbat
for the
tissues?
bathroom. Yeah, I have,
Um,
yeah, Shabbat tissues. There's Shabbat tissues
Yeah.
in a box.
yeah, okay.
So are you allowed to open the box? for
So
them?
again, you're not talking about like a regular tissue box. You're talking
No.
about something else. So I would imagine if it's like, something that is just a regular box, and you just need to kind of open it up, that'd be okay.
Cause you're saying you can't open.
Don't
up-
make a perforated line. You see this tissue box right here? Right? So I pull out this tissue, right? There's a certain cut over here. Once I pull that out, another one comes out. See, so this is kind of like a functioning vessel in a way. In a sense, by me opening up this middle thing, it's working towards the design of the tissue box to be able to use as a tissue box. Right? So that's a problem, to make that hole on the top. But if, let's say, I would pop open the side over here and pull out the tissues like that, that would be much better.
So you can't do that if you finish the box. You
I don't
can't-
know the type of box you're talking about,
Oh.
so I'm not familiar. Okay, so that's the idea. Is it clear? You have a question? Yeah.
Does that affect to like, let's say you have a snack that you put off the top and then it becomes this bag to close it?
So that is there already. Oh, so you're saying you opened up a bag. It has a little Ziploc on it.
Yeah.
It's for the really. I mean,
But I
if
feel
that,
like
if
for food,
let's put it this way: if the
everything's
Ziploc was not there, would you open the bag anyway? Of course, you want to get the purpose of your tearing is not to make a vessel, but rather to get to the food. That's why it would be okay.
Okay, and the second question, is there a problem with the sports cap bottles?
No.
Flipping it from the top part?
To open it, it's fine. Yeah, no problem. Okay, great. There's one other issue that comes up when you open up packages on Shabbat, which it's worthwhile to talk about. There's this is another melacha that we are going to learn together at more length, but it's called the melacha of erasing, right? Mochek. Now, mochek is the opposite of kotev. Kotev means writing. Mochek is erasing. So when you write two letters on Shabbat, that is forbidden. When you erase two letters on Shabbat in order to then go ahead and write two letters instead, that is forbidden as well. Erasing is a melacha on Shabbat. The question over here is like this. When I erase a letter by opening a package and trying to get to something inside, I am definitely erasing a word. Let's say I'm opening up one of those tea bags. Okay, let's say a sadaf tea bag, right? So on those tea bags, no question, if I just open it like that, I'm erasing the word sadaf, right? I'm cutting the letters in half, right? So I'm erasing on Shabbat. Is that allowed or is that not allowed? So that question applies to all the packages too. You want to open up your package of napkins, you want to open up your whatever it may be. There are letters everywhere, right? You want to cut a cake with letters on it. There are letters everywhere. So is that considered to be something which is allowed to do on Shabbat or not? So the strict letter of the law has it that you are allowed to do it. And the reason that you're allowed to do it is because of the fact that you definitely do not have in mind to rip those letters. And even if it does happen, the act of ripping the letter in this way is really something that is only prohibited rabbinically, even if you did it from the beginning with that intention, because it was never meant to last, it was never meant to be there. for a long time. And the rule is that writing that wasn't meant to last for a long time, it was meant to be ripped open or meant to be cut, is only rabbinically considered writing. Yeah.
There's a difference between Ashkenazim and Sephardim in this, right?
So I'm going to get there. Yeah. Very good. Very good. So let's get to it. So funny enough, Chacham Ovadia, who is the one who expresses his opinion that this is perfectly fine, quotes Ashkenazi poskim who say that it's fine. The main one being the Dagul Mervava, the Noda Yehuda, the Bechezkel Landa of Prague, who made the argument that this should be no problem whatsoever, because I'm not trying to tear open these letters. I'm not trying to erase anything. And even if I was trying to erase something, well, this wasn't meant to be writing that's written forever. It's not permanent writing. It's writing on a cake. And therefore, it's something I don't have in mind, on something which to begin with is only rabbinic, and he says it's therefore A-okay. The other opinions out there based on other Ashkenazi rabbis is that you should avoid doing so. And they argue that no, this is writing and you're not supposed to erase writing on Shabbat, in a nutshell. So therefore, ideally, if you can avoid ripping letters, like for example, if you can open up the Sadaf tea bag, instead of going it like horizontally, you could do it vertically. That's how I happen to open the Sadaf tea bags. I open it vertically downward. I don't end up ripping letters. You could try and avoid ripping letters on Shabbat if you try hard enough. Is it an absolute must? Let's say you have no time, you're in a rush, you're this and that, you don't have to. Okay, you want to be lenient? You have what to rely on. Yeah.
So it's not just for food, meaning like you're allowed to, you have what to rely on for everything, or just for food?
For any time that you're going to be opening something up, if there's a question of maybe I'm going to open up, or maybe I will erase letters, ideally you should try to avoid it. If you can't, you can be lenient for no matter what it is. Now, according to all opinions, by the way, if the erasing is happening during eating, so for example, there's no question, by the way, those tea biscuits that say on it petit beurre, whatever it says there, you could have it. That's like in the food itself. There's no question. That's fine. Also, if let's say you're erasing while you're eating, for example, a cupcake that says "Happy Birthday" and you like that, no problem. That's okay. Question is to slice the cupcake ahead of time, right? That is where the issue of am I considered erasing comes up or not. Clear?
On Shabbat, if you
On Shabbat, yes.
slice a cake on Shabbat before a meal, and you would be cutting the letters.
Right.
So
So
that
that
you
would be,
can't do.
again, according to Chacham Vadia, who quotes great poskim, you could, and there's very good reason to say it's permissible. If somebody wants to do it, don't look at him like he's a goy. He's great. You have a lot of room to rely on. You're good. Everything is good, right? Everything is good. So they want to cut the cake. Enjoy. Some people will ahead of time get a cake with what they call like a little chocolate on top. You ever see the chocolate they put? It's like a chocolate sheet. And they write "Happy Birthday" so and so, and then they just remove the chocolate, so then you can cut the cake without cutting the letters. There's a solution for everything. If you try, you can work it out. Okay, so far so good. Any questions? Do you have a question? Yes.
You could use chocolate on the top, or you can't.
Sure. Yeah.
Also, this is about what you said earlier about the upside down.
Sure.
So you said if you have a seven situation, do it. And
The bathroom situation?
What?
The bathroom?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say you try not to cut it with the line, you try to cut in the middle, but in the end, you cut on the line by accident.
Okay, you did.
Do you throw it away and try doing it again, or do you just
No. At that point, again, when you don't have it in mind and it ended up happening, you're not responsible for that. Yeah.
I think you mentioned earlier in the class that I've been thinking about. I wanted to ask you if it's okay. You mentioned the bathroom situation as a way of, dignity overrides
Mm-hmm.
the Melacha, But are there other examples that they give besides that bathroom situation? Let's say someone's at a Simcha on Shabbat and has a bed stain. I can imagine this happening. It's like embarrassed to go out.
Yeah.
And they like, is that
It can
considered-
only override a derabanan. It can't override a deoraita.
But
So-
is that an example of also being?
Because that's deoraita. To wash your clothing is deoraita.
But let's say you find a way of doing it derabanan, something derabanan. Are there other examples of like dignity, being clean, not smelling bad, or is it just like that bathroom situation?
I'm sure there are other examples. I'm blanking out right now off the top of my head. I don't know if there are more I can think of this minute, but I'll research it. Yeah, I'm sure there are more examples. It's a good rule of thumb. I actually gave a whole class about that. It's an interesting case. Whatever, I won't go into it right now. Okay, fine. Okay, good. We'll get to that later. Okay. Let's continue. I once had that happen to me one time. I was walking with my father to shul on Shabbat, and I was younger, and I had to go so badly. I wasn't able to. I said, Abba, if we don't do something right now, it's not going to be good. And he found it was some goy on the street that was coming out of his house, and he got me to go to this guy's house. He was in the middle of watching soccer, and it was a Turkish fellow, and he had owned a restaurant in town. Anyway, so we went to this guy's house, and that halacha came in very handy because the guy didn't have tissues; he only had toilet paper, and Baruch Hashem, he did it with a shinoi, and that's it. Okay, true story. Yeah. Okay. Next, let's move. So we spoke about tearing toilet paper, tissue boxes, mechatech. Okay. What about opening an envelope on Shabbat? There's a big discussion amongst the poskim as to whether or not you're allowed to open an envelope mail piece. So first of all, you have to know there are certain pieces of mail that are 100% we would call muktzeh. Bills are muktzeh, bank statements are muktzeh. Anything that has to do with monetary information, things like that, that's all muktzeh. You can't really even handle that on Shabbat. Question is, let's say you get a letter from Aunt so-and-so in Ohio, can you open it up and read that on Shabbat? So that's a big machloket haposkim, not so simple. But I'll read to you what he comes out with over here. Just so that we have.
What if you get
No
like
question?
a gift? Or
What do you
like a
mean?
Let's say you have like a party on Shabbat, like a Shabbat lunch, and people give you envelopes, and they can have a gift.
Oh, they give you
Yeah.
envelopes
Yeah.
with checks inside?
You're
Don't
not-
touch it. It's
Yeah,
muktzeh.
but you don't know. You didn't know. I don't know.
Do people ever give you an envelope with just a letter?
You know what?
I mean, yeah.
A lot of people give like a gift certificate to like a store.
There you go. So it's muktzeh. That's muktzeh.
But what about a wedding invitation?
Well,
You get a wedding invitation.
so ideally, the best thing would be the way the Mishnah Berurah learns to ask a goy to rip it open, and then you could read what's on the inside. That, he says, is the best thing to do. But he says that according to Chacham Ovadia, Meikar Adin mutar liftoach igeret dvuka or chatuma betit shuva al yedei goy b'Shabbat u'b'Yom Tov. See, so the ikr, meaning the main halacha, is that you are allowed to open it. He says, "Mikol makom im efshar nachon lachmir lichotcha al yedei goy." He says, but to be a little bit more machmir for the other poskim, it would be better to open it up through a goy. So if you have a goy that can open it for you, for example, you can ask the mailman himself who just delivered it. You can ask him to do it, and then he'll open it up. That would be the best thing. Now, he does distinguish, though, between letters that the tearing itself is enabling you to read the letter because the letter itself is the object being torn. For example,
You could also tear away letters.
no. Let's assume you're
Does
not.
it
Let's
have,
assume
like,
you're
a
not.
monogram or-
Let's assume you're not tearing away letters, for example, right? So, a parking ticket. You ever see these things well, that could be muktzah anyway. But let's say there are certain types of letters where you have to open the letter itself to read the letter. It's like it's not a letter in an envelope where it's on the paper itself. That is a problem according to everybody. Because over there, the act of tearing is enabling you to read the letters. It's constructive. See, by the envelope, as far as the envelope is concerned, the envelope is being damaged, it's being ripped, it's being destroyed. The envelope is going into the garbage. So the act of tearing is being done to an envelope, and you are looking for what's in the envelope. So that's much more like a bag with napkins inside. It's much more similar to that. So that's why that would be okay. But when the letter itself is the item being torn, that according to everybody is a problem. Okay. Good. So that is with respect to an envelope on Shabbat. Okay. By the way, baby wipes. Okay. Important to remember another halacha about baby wipes. We spoke about it in the past, but you need to make sure that the baby wipes that you buy are pre-cut, meaning some baby wipes are attached one to another. If you then go and detach one baby wipe from the next one, you have just made a smaller sheet of baby wipes. That's a problem.
Are Pampers okay?
I think so.
I mean, usually
But they always come out with new ones. So just do a test run when you buy it. Just pull it out, see is it coming out alone or is it pulling some other one?
Usually I get the ones that are permitted for Shabbat, but sometimes.
Yeah, you never know. It could change all the time. Sometimes you get, let's say, paper towels for a paper towel dispenser, and you think that it's all detached, and all of a sudden you pull one out, another one comes out, and it's all attached. So you have an issue. So it's good to what?
Quick question.
Yeah.
If you open the side, like let's say you forgot to open the top.
Okay. Yeah.
If you open the side, it's like completely all the wipes get destroyed.
You know what I do in that case? I immediately just put it all into a Ziploc. Yeah. Just put it all into a Ziploc, it stays moist. It's annoying, but whatever. Yeah. By the way, it could be that some of the baby wipe tops, I don't know if they're perforated. It could just be it's a sticker on top. Sometimes it's not anything more than just a little sticker. Like the hole is there. What? Is perforated? Okay. So it depends on the brand, I guess. Okay, let's go. So the general idea, we spoke about this before. The reason that it is permissible to open up these different packages, even if it's not food, is because remember, when you are destroying, you're doing a destructive act. So that's always prohibited only rabbinically. Remember, if I decide on Shabbat that I want to, destroy my grass, my backyard, and I shovel holes everywhere, and I completely destroyed my backyard. So is that considered to be a Melacha Doraita? No, because destroying is not what was done in order to create the Mishkan. To create the Mishkan, they did constructive acts. They didn't do destructive acts. So therefore, that which is prohibited is only rabbinic. It's only midrabanan, and therefore, it's going to be permitted if there's some kind of great need for Shabbat. So that's why you can open a bag of forks, a bag of knives, spoons, napkins, even though you're tearing it open, right? And the reason that it's okay is because number one, well, again, provided that you plan on throwing out the bag when you're done, right? Which I'm sure you all will do that. You're not planning on keeping the bag of forks, right? Nothing to do with the bag of forks. It's going to go in the garbage. No problem. And also, you're not using the item that was ripped itself, but rather you're trying to use the contents that were within that item, right? So therefore, the act of tearing being done is not constructive to the item itself. You're destroying that item in order to get what's inside. And you're using it obviously for Shabbat. You're not tearing for something after Shabbat. It's for Shabbat itself. Yes?
There are times I would use plastic bags. I often put garbage in it. Let's say like I opened it and then I'll put like cucumber slices, like the cucumber skin in there.
Or what, like a fork bag?
Yeah, I have done that before. So that's a no-no, right?
Okay, so that, if you plan on making a vessel out of it, Now you have a problem.
So I don't plan it, but I have done that before, like I have used like random things I've opened or a box from
Yeah.
Amazon, I've like shoved garbage in there. Because, you know, like, oh,
Mhm.
because it's a big box, like, so that I have to consciously remember not to do, right?
It's a good point. Probably better to avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably better. Yeah. I mean, one could argue that box is going in the garbage too. So you're not really making it into a vessel. You're just putting garbage with garbage. One could potentially argue that. But still, it would be better to avoid. Yeah.
Shabbat, is it better not to? Or is
So-
It's just paper.
Yeah, no, I think that it depends on why you're doing it. If you're doing it, let's say for after Shabbat, then yeah, that's a problem. You shouldn't do it for after Shabbat. If you're doing it for Shabbat.
If you have something that could be for you to wear on Shabbat or.
Okay, yeah. So
to
that
use on
that
Shabbat.
that has to do with the beautiful heter from my dear friend Rabbi Leshkowitz.
What if there's
Yeah.
tags on it that you have to rip?
Let's talk about tags. Ready? Let's do it. Okay. So there are different types of tags. There are some tags that hang with a plastic piece that comes out of, let's say, I don't know, you bought a dress, they put one of those long plastics with the tag, with the money, whatever it cost on it, and it's just kind of dangling out there. That tag is not considered to be sewn into the whatever it is, dress, skirt, shirt, whatever it may be. And for that reason, it may be removed on Shabbat. Okay? Now, believe it or not, Rabbi Ribiat in his 39 Melachot book brings down the important halacha that a kli shemelachto li'isur, which means a vessel that does a prohibited action on Shabbat, which we consider to be muktzeh, is allowed to be used for a permitted purpose. For example, if let's say you need to open a walnut and you need a hammer in order to open the walnut, the halacha is, even though a hammer builds and a hammer is muktzeh, if let's say I left my hammer outside in broad daylight and I'm afraid people will come and steal it, am I allowed to bring it inside? No, because the hammer is muktzeh. You can't move a hammer, but you could move a hammer for a permitted use. So to crack open a walnut, you could move a hammer. To crack open a coconut, you could use the hammer to crack it open. So he says, being that that's the case, you could take a wonderful pair of muktzeh scissors, right, out of your wherever, take it and snip it off. No problem. Why? Because you're using the muktzeh, right, kli shemelachto li'isur, for the permitted purpose of getting rid of this thing, which is not considered to be sewn in. Not so for the laundry tag on the dry cleaner's tag on the shirt. The dry cleaner's tag on the shirt is stapled into it's almost like stapled into the shirt. And for that reason, it's a problem, right? So for me to remove the dry cleaners, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like on the shirt, they staple the number, right? If that is left on the shirt on Shabbat, it may not be removed on Shabbat. There's a difference between the dangling plastic and the stapled thing. The dangling plastic is not considered to be sewn onto the shirt, therefore it could be removed. Whereas the laundry, the dry cleaner tag, which is on the belly of the guy, is considered to be sewn in, and therefore you cannot cut it off. Follow what I'm saying? Clear? Okay. Excellent. Fine. Tags when you buy a suit. You ever buy your son a suit and there are like these tags on the suit, the name brand, they come on the sleeve of the suit. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah? What? Yes. You can't remove those on Shabbat. They have to be removed before Shabbat. When you buy a new suit, at least for men, what happens is they put the name brand on the right over here. They put like two things over here, and I don't know what they do exactly, but they bolt it in somehow. It's like a little piece of material with the name of the company. What?
Like a price tag.
No, it's not a price tag. It's like what?
A
label.
A label, brand name label, whatever, something like that. That you cannot take off on Shabbat because it's like it's pressed in, it's almost like sewn into it. So to undo that would be Koreya. Yeah.
So same thing, like let's say something's very itchy in your shirt, like the tag in your shirt, you can't remove that with this one.
Right.
Even if it's like extremely bad or something.
Yeah. It's sewn in.
Like a little kid.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Very sensory type, yeah. It's an issue. You can't do that on Shabbat. Give him something else to wear. Yeah. Yeah.
There's some tags that are, it's not connected with plastic, but it's other material that can hold the tag, but it's not those plastic things.
Okay.
So, like, can you rip that off? With the
What is
snip?
it?
I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of
What would I find it
a
on?
material. Like,
Like the
that,
there.
yeah, it's not like a plastic. It's not
Like a
hanging
loop.
off a plastic thing.
Loop?
Yeah, like a loop or something. It's not like the plastic.
Isn't that plastic?
It's like 12.
Huh? The point is it's dangling.
Yeah.
It's not stone and.
Snip it.
Yeah.
Snip it. You're good. Okay, very good. A lot of times when you buy a suit, so the pockets of the suit are kind of stitched together. Like this one, for example, is still stitched together. I haven't ever opened this up. Or yeah, these guys also. Like so they're closed. You can't even put anything inside of them, right? If you want to open that up, you have to open that up before Shabbat. You can't open that up on Shabbat. Okay, because that's Koreya. That's Koreya, but it's a creative Koreya. It's not a destructive Koreya. It's by me tearing this out, I now have a pocket I could use. You understand? I'm opening the pocket. That's creative. That's a problem. Yeah.
So the same thing with how the socks that come together.
Beautiful.
Like stitches.
Very good. Correct. If you have socks that are stuck together with a plastic, no problem, right? Because it's not really attached, it's not really sewn together, right? But if they're sewn together with material, which sometimes they do, or gloves sometimes have that, mittens, that's it. You have a problem because there's material that's holding them together, sewing them together for you to then clip them is actually a Koreya that's creating two separate vessels. Over here, when it's a plastic that is attaching them, they are already two separate vessels. They're just this thing in the middle. Snip it, no problem. You hear the difference or no? Okay, great. Very good. Now, okay, we spoke about all that. What about stickers, right? So sometimes you have, a sticker that was meant to be there for a long time. It's meant to be there permanently. So if you have a sticker like that was placed there, it would probably be better not to remove that sticker on Shabbat. There are those who are lenient nevertheless, but I would imagine it's better not to remove it on Shabbat. But then we spoke, I think at one point, maybe last week even, about sticky notes and about the idea that sometimes there are certain sticky notes that were not meant to be there permanently. For example, the ones that show you where your bookmark is, your spot, they have like an arrow, they point to your spot where you're up to. So those are meant to be moved, right? So therefore, it wasn't there in the first place permanently, and therefore you would be allowed to go ahead and to move it. Okay, great. A few more things here, guys. Spoke about that. Okay, book pages. Sometimes you'll open up a book and you'll see that you have two pages that are attached. The question that you have to ask if you want to detach one from the other is, why are they attached? Are they attached because in the factory, when they were manufactured, they never were taken apart from one another? Or are they attached because they were originally taken apart from one another, just that now some kid had a bowl of cholent, and the cholent spilled onto the, Birkat Hamazon bencher, and now the pages are attached, right? So if it's because of the latter reason, so then there's no problem to detach them because they were detached, just that some kid decided to bind all of them together with cholent beads. Okay, so you can detach them. They are detached already. They were already made into separate pages. But if they were never cut into separate pages, then to then go in to cut them, is a problem. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
It actually.
Well,
This actually happened.
yeah.
But it wasn't attached, just they foiled the edges of the flow. So that's what made them stick.
Were both pages attached at the bottom? They were in a fold.
Not in a fold, like, like this, the whole around it is foiled, so they let it makes it stick together.
Is foil?
Foiled, like fold.
Oh, okay, okay.
So when these two were stuck together, so when I would turn it, I was literally like unsticking.
Uh-huh. I see. In other words, by you opening the thing, by you turning the page, you heard a rip as you're turning it. It's a good question. In other words, they had never been.
So like, nobody read this piece yet.
Yeah,
Problematic.
could be. Probably. But again, you didn't know. I'm saying you didn't know that it was like that. Yeah, you didn't know that it was like that. So how are you gonna know? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Sometimes people need cotton on Shabbat. They need cotton for different reasons. Maybe for like a swab, if they have to take a shot of some sort. So they have these huge chunks of cotton that they sell in big bags. So it says that you shouldn't really take from that big chunk. That's kind of like ripping cotton, and therefore it's an issue. So ideally, rip it before Shabbat. If you're stuck and you really need it, then you'd be allowed to do it for like a medical thing, like a shot like that. Okay. We spoke about all these things. Anything that is glued together, okay, like pasted sheets of paper, pasted plastic, right? Or cloth that was pasted together, right? Anything that has been attached together through glue, through stitching, to then tear one away from the other is Koreya. That is important to be aware of. Whenever something has been attached together through glue, through stitching, through sewing, to then rip that thing away from the other thing is considered to be Koreya. So if let's say you had, somebody glued something onto a piece of paper, onto another piece of paper, or a picture onto a piece of paper, and you want to then take it away. I think we spoke about this last week also, like the wedding album or something that you have something attached onto this album and you want to take it off and show it to people. It's a problem. It's a problem because that would be the Melacha of Koreya. All right, guys, I think I'm done. Azakim Ruchim. Hope it was clear. We're good? Yes.